messages, and it's been about a year that that the elders have been, hey, we need somebody to speak, and we're like, I'm not qualified, or at least that's what I say. So I said, one day I'm going to get a message that I did last year, and I can just do that message. And today is that day, but I did tweak it. I did study. I don't want you to think that I just said, drinking beer all week, don't worry about it. No, you still want to prepare. You still want to hear from the Lord. And I felt like it was okay to at least use a modified version of last year. So anyway, I know this information you didn't need to hear. It doesn't build my credibility. Hey, there I'm sounding a little deeper. But anyway, this week's parsha is Pinchas or Phineas. And I did this last year, and I felt, again, this year it was okay that the story of Phineas is really a hero that he blends through the two portions. So I'm going to go back into last week's portion a good bit and talk about some things that stood out to me. So last week, we had the Moabites and the Midianites plotting against Israel. They see these 600,000 plus people, maybe 2 million people out there, and they're getting upset and they're afraid. So anyway, Balak, he decides to get Balaam, who Balak sees as a prophetic sorcerer. So Balak is going to hire Balaam to curse Israel. That sounds simple enough. And it turns out, as I read more this week, Balaam is, there's a lot of controversy and dispute over, was he a sorcerer? Was he a prophet? Was he both? But there is a pretty strong line of thought that he was trying to tap into some darker forces. Even though he was hearing from the Lord, he was not necessarily all for the Lord, so to speak. So let's see here. Hold on, Nope, we're good. I'm supposed to be the doorman too. That's why I'm checking. I don't want to leave you guys hanging out there. So anyway, the accusation, at least, of sorcery got me to thinking about sorcery and magic and things like that. And I think the first slide has a definition of sorcerer: a person who claims or is believed to have magic powers, a wizard. And some synonyms for that, which there are many: black magic, the black arts, witchcraft, wizardry, the occult, occultism, enchantment, divination, demonology. That really jumped out at me. So, ology, I'm pretty sure that's the study of demons, which, so that's a pretty severe term to use for Balaam. But again, it got me thinking about, magic and most of us have grown up in the age of Walt Disney. Magic makes for really good stories, and really it's considered fun and harmless. But when you have kids, you start to question things like, well, I can agree or disagree with myself, but you kind of, with your kids, you start to have to give them a little more black and white. And you can't always just say, because I told you so, although that's a really good one. So, of course, we've tried to steer the kids away, but they ask why. Well, the Bible speaks against it. Well, why? And, you're not used to, when you have kids, finally, you're getting used to getting cross-examined all the time. I think it was Judah, really, that started this. He's the oldest. Well, why? Help me, Lord. Why? Well, one of the answers that I came up with is that you always have to ask yourself, where's the power come from? All right, we have this power. Hey, Shabbat school kids. Hey. Shh. Be quietly creative. I know it's hard. Anyway, I can yell at kids. I've had 14 years of practice. So, where was I? You just ask a simple question, not to be too much of a stick in the mud. You just ask, where does the power come from? Where does this magical power come from? Are there just, cosmic rays of magic pulsing through the universe? No strings attached, power, just waiting for the right enlightened person to sort of tap into that? Well, my position has become, no, that's, if it's not from God, it's from Satan. And really, magic is, it's an attempt to circumvent God. It's to have a miracle that's not from God. So I'm not trying to beat up Disney. I don't think we need to get a golden book bonfire going here or anything like that. But it's good to think about it. Okay, here's the title sorcerer has been attached to Balaam, and what might that mean? So another point is that you don't really want to fool around with that power. You don't want to fool around with the enemy. The enemy is real, and the enemy of God is the enemy of God's people. So also the enemy will try to use any means he can to make you fall. Satan was actively at work in these two parshas. And through Balaam and Balak was trying to do a full frontal spiritual assault to curse, attack, and destroy God's people. Of course, God was having none of that. But back to Balaam, there was a method to Balaam's madness. Balaam didn't just go running and start cursing. He knew, well, I can only say what God tells me to say, and he was kind of hesitant. And you think, okay, Balaam's a good guy. But then God says go, and then we have the donkey incident, and it really makes you think that Balaam's motives weren't pure, that maybe somehow he could come into a really big payday at the end of this. So he didn't just go start cursing. He said, okay, Balak, let's build 7 altars, and let's offer sacrifices. Prepare 7 bulls and 7 rams. And he did this 3 different times. And I still love to crunch the numbers sometimes. So 1 ram and 1 bull on each altar times 3, that's 21 bulls and 21 rams. And with some shoddy market research, I came up with the figure for the rams, about $3,000 worth of rams in today's dollars. 21 bulls would be $17,325. So bulls and rams together, that's $20,475. And again, it's just good to think in context to apply it to now. It wasn't just sort of a casual thing. Hey, let's go spend $20,000 on sacrifices. You're going to think about it. You don't just do that casually or haphazardly. $20,000 is a lot of dollars to me. And so Balak didn't just want to sort of curse Israel. He was putting his money where his mouth was. And of course, Balaam, if he's ready to offer $20,000 worth of sacrifices, what would Balaam's reward be? A lot more than that. But Balaam had agreed to say only what God said, but I'm thinking he was trying hard to sway God's mind, right? What's the point of the sacrifices? It's a sign to God. Hey, I'm trying to get your attention, God. That was 42 animals. So we had the first attempt at cursing, Numbers 23:8, and I don't think I put the whole in there. All right, 23:8, Judah. There we go. How am I to curse those whom God has not cursed? How am I to denounce those whom Adonai has not denounced? That's not much of a curse, is it? So, of course, Balak is not happy about that. All right, let's go to another spot. Put 7 more altars up. Sacrifice 14 more animals. And let's try it again. In Numbers 23:19. God is not a human who lies or a mortal who changes his mind. When he says something, he will do it. When he makes a promise, he will fulfill it. Again, Balak is not too happy about that. So let's try a different spot. 7 more altars, 7 more bulls, 7 more rams. All right, let's try again. Numbers 23:22 through 23. God, who brought them out of Egypt, gives them the strength of a wild ox. Thus, one can't put a spell on Yaakov. No magic will work against Israel. It can now be said of Yaakov and Israel, what is this that God has done? So, hooray, Israel survived this sort of head-on frontal attack by the enemy and the enemy of God's people. And not only that, I didn't read you all of it. If you go back through the Parsha, the the blessings were longer than that, covered a lot of specifics. There were prophetic blessings speaking to the future, even to Messiah. And also the enemies of God's people were cursed. So just the exact opposite of what Balak was trying to achieve. So the enemy's been defeated, right? Like I say, hooray. But really he was thwarted. He was not annihilated. Numbers 25 begins the next attack. And it wasn't the head-on, in-your-face, frontal attack. There was no magic involved. No scary devil horns or pitchfork. Really, all it was simple as pretty girls and some food, right? Numbers 25:1. Israel stayed at Shittim, and there the people began whoring with the women of Moab. So I don't know how the women infiltrated the Israelites' camp. I don't know if it was just the shepherds on the outskirt. They had livestock, so they couldn't all just hang at the tent. They had to kind of spread out from around where they were. And so I'm not sure if that's how it happened. I don't think it says. But it wasn't just a casual encounter. It was a deliberate trap. We can't curse Israel. We can't weaken them militarily. We can't defeat them militarily. What can we do? So let's look at verse 2, Numbers 25, 2 through 3. And remember, just for context, if I'm not mistaken, they had been eating manna for 40 years. So no matter how much you like something, how good it is, how much like honey it tastes, you probably don't want to eat the same thing for 40 years running. So these women invited the people to the sacrifices of their gods, where the people ate, not manna, and bowed down to their gods. With Israel thus joined to Baal Peor, the anger of Adonai blazed up against Israel. So again, not a violent attack. There seemed to be no obvious danger there. Just, a friendly invite. Hey, let's eat some good food. Let's have some drinks. Hang out with the girls. The women didn't go grab the men by the ear and say, get over here and bring a curse upon yourself. Wreck your life. Bring a curse to the third and fourth generations, right? That's not how it played out. But, in fact, that's what was about to happen. And this is hard for me to read myself because I know that I have many failings. I'm responsible for people in my life, including wife and children. And Exodus 34:7 says, showing grace to the 1,000th generation, forgiving offenses, crimes, and sins, yet not exonerating the guilty, but causing the negative effects of the parents' offenses to be experienced by their children and grandchildren, and even by the third and fourth generations. These guys forgot about that, right? They were thinking about their stomachs. So, again, the enemy could not get Balaam to pronounce a curse on the people. So he would cause, what did they really do? He caused the people to curse themselves. Balaam couldn't do it, but the people did it to themselves. And it blew me away last year when that kind of became clear. It still blows me away to think, and of course we want to say, oh, the Israelites. Put yourself in their shoes. We're no better. We're no more superior than they. They were and we are our own worst enemies. We do so much harm to ourselves. And of course I'm speaking and preaching to myself. So we're not always being attacked. Sometimes we're just attacking ourselves because we're just being slack, basically. And so the Father, of course, has a reaction to this. Numbers 25, 4 through 5. Adonai said to Moshe, take all the chiefs of the people and hang them facing the sun before Adonai, so that the raging fury of Adonai will turn away from Israel. Should be another verse, I think. Moshe said to the judges of Israel, each of you is to put to death those in his tribe who have joined themselves to Baal Peor. Anything else? Nope. Also Numbers 25:6. Just then, in the sight of Moshe and the whole community of Israel, as they were weeping at the entrance to the tent of meeting, a man from Israel came by, bringing to his family a woman from Midian. So this guy bringing this woman, he wasn't one of these wayward shepherds on the outskirts, those shepherd guys who are always up to trouble. This was Zimri, a leader of the tribe of Simeon, and the woman wasn't just your average, girl drawing water from the well either. She was Cosby. I always say Cosby just because it makes me laugh. But sorry, you don't want to be in my head sometimes. But Cosby or Cosby. Now I've lost my place. She wasn't an average woman. She was a Midianite princess. So you have two politically important figures here. So Numbers 25:7-9. When Pinchas or Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron, the Kohen, so help me here, that's the grandson of Aaron, right? He saw it. He got up from the middle of the crowd, took a spear in his hand, and pursued the man from Israel right into the inner part of the tent, where he thrust his spear through both of them, the man from Israel and the woman through her stomach. Thus was the plague among the people of Israel stopped. Thus was the plague among the people of Israel. Nevertheless, 24,000 died in the plague. 24,000 is a lot. I don't know that it says, and I don't want to be too graphic, but in my mind, he stabbed both of them at the same time with one spear, and you'd have to be kind of close to each other to do that. I'm just saying. So however he did it, he killed both of them with the one spear. So in the midst of this 24,000 being struck by the plague, Zimri was so blinded by the physical that he brings this pagan girl past the whole camp, 600,000 fighting men. I'm throwing numbers out. I'm making up numbers up maybe here, but it's about 2 million people. It's not a small camp. So he had to go wind his way through lots and lots of tents, through lots and lots of people. And again, the plague was happening. So anyway, of course, he's killed and possibly in the act. So there were 601,730 men of fighting age counted in the upcoming census. And it might have been, instead, 625,000. But remember, 24,000 were killed. So another thing to point out that I thought was interesting, remember the tribe of Simeon. If you look at the numbers of the different tribes, of course, everyone is, the old generation has died off, and you have the new generation. But Simeon, the tribe of Simeon, lost more than any other tribe. So some tribes gained, some tribes lost, but Simeon lost more than anyone else. There were 37% fewer men in the tribe of Simeon by the time of the second census. All right, where can I jump around to next? You guys still awake? Let's see, Numbers 25:10-11. Adonai said to Moshe, Pinchas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron, the Kohen, has deflected my anger from the people of Israel by being as zealous as I am, so that I didn't destroy them in my own zeal. So jumping to that, let's see, another verse, Exodus 34:14. Zealous and jealous aren't the same thing, but this is an attribute of God. Because you are not to bow down to any other God, since Adonai, whose very name is jealous, is a jealous God. And I think that's important to point out. I mean, the people had bowed down to false gods. Uh, and that did not make God happy. So, but when we think of jealousy, there's a lot of negative connotations, right? When we get jealous, sometimes it's for the right reasons, but a lot of times it's not for the right reasons. So God's jealousness is not the same as man's. You know, ours is, hey guys, unless you want to come stand up front with me. I'm sure you do. We get jealous from pettiness, selfishness, insecurity, or fear. God's zeal and jealousy is in the sense, I think, that a loving husband is jealous over his wife. And I don't think any of us want a spouse or a God who cares so little about us that it doesn't faze them if we're unfaithful. Do you really want to be married to somebody? They don't care whether you do or you don't. We just know in our heart of hearts that there is a line that we can cross with each other and with God that, hey, it's just not right. And God has every reason to be jealous. So, Phinehas has made the father very happy with his zeal. Numbers 25, 12 through 13. Therefore say, I am giving him my covenant of shalom, making a covenant with him and his descendants after him, that the office of Kohen will be theirs forever. This is because he was zealous on behalf of his God and made atonement for the people of Israel. Almost there. We're at least halfway through, guys. And again, I know I am jumping around, but I guess some points is that, remember, we're our own worst enemy. If the enemy can't curse you, try not to curse yourself by your actions. But Phinehas, in his zeal, he carried out God's command. He killed 2 people. And I'm going to get in the weeds here if I haven't been the whole time. But on the surface, it looks like Phinehas is being rewarded for murder or extrajudicial killing. And it kind of applies a lot today. There's a lot of, if it's not necessarily happening on a big scale, but there's a mob justice mentality, right? You're wrong. We're not going to go through the procedures. We're going to, cancel you, shame you, something. We're going to take matters in our own hands. But Phinehas, in this case, in reality, he was carrying out the direct order of Adonai, which was given to Moshe, and in turn, the order Moshe had given to the judges. And again, I talked about this earlier. I mean, Zimri had made all the way through the camp, and someone really should have already killed him, right? They should have taken him out already, because this wasn't a secret order, right? The people already knew. But put yourselves in the people's shoes. The Complete Jewish Study Bible commentary, it points out, again, I mentioned earlier, both Zimri and Cosby were from prestigious families with power. And the judges might have hesitated. Ask yourself, would killing Zimri, a prominent Simeonite, start a civil war between the tribes? Reuben versus Simeon, who knows? I mean, it could happen. Would killing Cosby cause war to break out with Midian? Could you have a civil war and a war with Midian at the same time? I don't want to excuse the people for not taking action, but, again, things aren't always so simple. There could be real consequences to doing the right thing. So, again, I've drug us through the weeds, sort of the legality, but I did want to quote something from Daniel Lancaster in talking about Phinehas, and I think it applies to us today, thinking about zeal, thinking about jealousy, thinking about not hesitating to do the right thing. Lancaster says, the religious person, I think we would call ourselves religious, we might view ourselves like Phinehas, sticking up for the truth by skewering people. This line of reasoning falls apart when we realize that Phinehas was acting under the direct orders of Moses and God. He was not taking the law into his own hands. He was carrying out the commandment of the Lord. We as believers in Yeshua need to be wary of emulating the violence of Phinehas. The path laid before us by Yeshua tells us to love our enemies, pray for our persecutors, and show kindness to both the wicked and the good. So, maybe I'm the only one, but I don't think so. There's a lot to kind of get upset about these days. It doesn't matter which side of any issue you're on. All of us are probably experiencing some pretty strong emotion about what's right, what's wrong, and what we need to do about it. And thinking about this and reading back through it and sort of finding the application for now, as hard as it is, when we see darkness, we need to try not to respond with darkness. So, but that's sort of our natural state. You're angry, I'm angry, right? That's what we're going to do, just almost automatically. But instead of saying you're angry and I'm angry, we need and respond with darkness to darkness with darkness. We need to respond to darkness with light. And I know we all know that, but I think it's good to remember. You know, publicly sort of proving yourself right is not always the end, you know. You may feel disrespected by someone because of their opinions and how they express those opinions. But, you know, they're watching your response, and your response of light, the world may see as weakness, but there is a spiritual component to that, and then it has spiritual ramifications. So anyway, we will get through this dark time, and praise God, we do have the light of Yeshua, and I pray, Father, that you would fill us with more and more of that light, that you would help us to shine your light through the world, and we look forward to your return. Anyway, Shabbat Shalom. Y'all have a good week.